Hello, Douglas Long and Sonny again. And we thought we'll talk a little bit around the Chilean mining spectacular rescue. And perhaps looking at the way leadership enacted itself in the must be absolutely horrendous circumstances of these 33 people being trapped down under. Deep 700 plus meters down under the earth. So I think there's something really important that people should recognize about the leadership that came to light in that circumstances.
I agree. I think the person who stands out to me as an outstanding leader was the shift foreman, who in a situation where he couldn't rely on any external support. No use saying to somebody, if you don't perform, you're sacked. No use to saying to someone, well, if you don't perform, you're going to get your pay docked, or if you do perform, you're going to get a bonus, or whatever it might be. Absolutely no use in using any of the traditional approaches. He managed to hold those 33 people together, well, those other 32 people together, and have them emerge from the mine, all of them basically healthy, and so far as can be seen, healthy not just physically but emotionally, and having had them work together cooperatively, supportively, under those circumstances for that length of time, absolutely phenomenal sorts of leadership. And clearly he was a man who, over the past years, one would assume, had built up a trust and a rapport and a respect with his people, and it was obviously a mutual trust, rapport and respect, that when the crunch came, something that, like you, I simply cannot imagine what it must have been like, but when that crunch came, people were prepared to listen to him, to work with him, to come together in a common purpose, and to engage with each other in order to help each other out and to survive. I just find that sort of leadership inspiring and phenomenal. That to me that guy was a real hero in holding them all together.
Yes. I mean, that's a classic third generation leader.
Yeah.
We can't imagine him cracking the whip, holding a carrot. There was nothing possible in traditional form of leadership. There would have been no motivation. There was no way of giving them incentives, other than the fact that we work together or we are dead. But in many instances, and I have seen such things happen in different parts, where colossally difficult situations, people in that kind of life and death situation have ended up thrashing each other.
Yeah, and that must have been very much an option in those early days, where after the collapse, before there was anything came down from the surface saying, yes, we've found you, and suddenly we can talk with you, we can get you light. To have simply, even if it had only held them for that short time, which is 5 or 6 days, I think, until they got something down to them. Even if it had only been for that, it would have been phenomenal. But to have done it for 33 days, just almost beyond belief.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we've got to kind of recognize. Many people will talk about the rescue, they'll talk about all these things, and the courage of each of those miners to keep the faith and keep believing that they will be taken out rather than giving up, which is the easy option. But they must not forget the leadership that held this together. Too many times I've had the experience myself of people panicking when something like that happens, and then it becomes all about every person for himself or herself, and they forget about everybody else, and it's very hard to pull people together. So I really commend this human being. He's an amazing man, Luis, and he's from whatever that comes out of this, I hope that the world actually recognizes that and learns something from this process.
Particularly when you're dealing with 33 people. You might say, okay, with a group of 4 or 5, it's more understandable because there's not as many interpersonal relationships and to deal with, but with 33 people, to have avoided it splitting into all sorts of camps and fighting and us against them and all these sorts of things, to have had a cohesion Absolutely phenomenal.
Yes. And I think that's a great example of third generation leadership, as you said. So it's something that perhaps you could actually think about in an organization when you don't have these crises and stuff like that facing it. Why is it that we don't actually embrace third generation leadership strategies? Why don't we think like that, the mindset? Why is it that we keep reverting back to first generation and second generation leadership, and even the latest HR processes are still inclined to be first and second generation.
Yes.
It shocks you when you turn up in these organizations and go, you guys are still living in the 50s in the way you're leading. And your HR manuals are suggesting that the training you want to get is to train you to be a 1950s style leader. It's not going to work in the 21st century. And I hope that people will learn that lesson from this remarkable man and this remarkable story.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts? What do you think about? How do you see that particular rescue attempt and that field supervisor's heroic role in there? Comment or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.